Okay, welcome everyone to this week's episode of What the Ref. I'm James.
And I'm Lyndsey.
And this week we have a kind of special episode where we're going to focus specifically on the Hidden Ref competition. The Hidden Ref competition is something we've been running in the Hidden Ref since the start. Indeed, it's pretty much the first thing Hidden Ref did. Like back in the days, there was a few of us working on this. Hidden Ref was kind of emerging. There was this idea to have a competition. We thought, let's just use that as a way of kind of surfacing the kind of work in the community that's producing hidden kind of outputs, the kind of hidden roles that exist. And well, it had an amazing response. And I have a really fond memory going back to the first competition of us setting up a call for the Hidden Ref competition results, not really knowing how many people would actually respond to that call, getting loads of people submit, and then having a really wonderful award ceremony that was kind of late COVID era. So it meant that it was something we ended up doing online, which I think we originally planned to do something in person, but of course didn't. I had a really, really lovely kind of hour and a half with some people celebrating some wonderful things that go on in research. So the competition is really close to my heart, and it's really close to everything we do in the Hidden Ref. And now it's kind of your baby, right, Lyndsey?
I suppose it is. So I wasn't actually involved in the Hidden Ref competition that first time round, but yeah. I take my hat off to people. I mean, you were navigating a global pandemic, already started to work on this new thing of recognising people and these kind of outputs and roles, which was a hard enough thing. And then you've attempted to do that whilst everything else kind of in life was going a bit crazy. So congratulations for you guys actually making it positive at the end of that and able to recognise people. Yeah.
Thank you. So I've kind of just dived straight into it, right? But I think the thing is we want to use this episode to kind of like strip everything back, to really start from the basics, to give people a sense of what the Hidden Ref competition is, who's involved, the kind of the architecture of it ultimately. So maybe I'll start with a kind of a really easy starter question, something we can talk about, Lyndsey. Like, could you tell us, like, what is the competition?
What is the competition? So not to say anything bad about the word competition, because I can see why we've used that, but it does sound like we're basically making people compete against each other. And whilst that is essentially what we're doing, because we have judges and we're gonna kind of put scores and actually judge these things, it's really about celebrating people and recognizing them. So the Hidden Ref competition is an activity we've ran actually twice before. So there's the one that James mentioned, which was in 2020/2021, because that was a bit dodgy. We then ran the second one in 2024, which was the one that I took over. Massive learning curve. That was good fun. And then we are running it again this year, if you hadn't guessed already, or if you haven't heard us kind of talk about it. So the 2026 one is the third iteration. So as I say, it's really about recognising people, the parts of research that usually happen behind the scenes. It's all the stuff we always talk about, right? It's the stuff that keeps research running, but it doesn't often get highlighted in the traditional outputs. So there's all the things you've heard. If you've been to Hidden Ref things before, we've got software and datasets and research infrastructure, public engagement, community management, which is myself, and then basically the people that make these things possible. So basically a way to celebrate all of those hidden contributions that make research excellent, but often go unnoticed. That's how I would describe what the Hidden Ref competition is.
And I guess it's a subtle distinction calling it the competition from just calling it the Hidden Ref. I don't know, we might end up having to say ref twice because in some sense it is there as a kind of shadow exercise. It's a way of not mopping up things that were sort of didn't make it into the ref, but really kind of giving people a place where they can showcase the kind of work they feel the ref under recognizes. So in a way, the Hidden Ref competition is just the Hidden Ref in some senses. But it kind of, by adding the competition to it, it gives it a sense of, I don't know, gravitas. It means there's prizes. You get prizes for competitions, right? So
this is true. Maybe that's the best use of that kind of word. No one has ever questioned the fact of the word competition, but it's just kind of got me thinking while I was prepping for this. I'm like, oh, wait, actually, competition. But in that sense, yeah, we do reward people at the end of it. So I suppose competition as well makes people really put the effort into their submission because they're trying to kind of win something, compete a bit maybe.
So we've mentioned prizes, we've mentioned submissions. So how, broadly speaking, Lyndsey, does the competition work from your perspective?
How does it work? I mean, with anything like this, I mean, you're usually that bit worried you're putting the work into something quite big. A lot of people are involved in it. So we do actually want to make it as easy as possible for people to put their submissions in. So we do try to keep it pretty simple. But then we need to make sure we're still gaining enough information to then make it powerful. So since the metrics from the REF exercise itself show that publications already get great representation and therefore recognised, our categories for the Hidden Ref competition were built by taking the not traditionally submitted outputs to Hidden Ref, or basically the non-publication categories, as a starting point. Then over the years, we have built on those competition categories by crowdsourcing ideas directly from the research community. So basically saying, hey, what else is not actually being recognised that we can use this space to recognise? So that last iteration in 2024, we had 24 categories. I don't know what anyone else thinks. I love when numbers align like that. So in 2024, we've got 24 categories. Lovely.
Never noticed that.
I know, I feel like if we somehow get 28 categories this year, I'm going to have to cut 2 of them just to keep the numbers up. Obviously not. I'll get over it. It's fine. So we ask people to submit their examples of their not traditionally submitted outputs or contributions via a form on our website. So, I mean, I can delve into what that form means, but that will make this even more boring than it might be, since we don't have 3 hosts talking about it. All of that information kind of gets posted on our website, so you can know what to expect, so you can spend some time writing your submission. So we ask people to submit that on the website, and then of course we're quite inclusive. We offer and can accept different media types. So people have before, said like, I actually have something else that I want to share with you that won't fit in this form, and they send it to us by email, and then we make sure that gets passed on to the people that are going to be doing the reviews. And on that, so we rely on loads of people and their precious time to do this kind of work. So we build panels of volunteer judges who we would call expert judges from across the research community. They work together to review the submissions. And again, I don't really like the word judge, because our goal isn't just to judge them, but celebrate the excellence in the work. But for want of a better term, expert panelists, judges. So spoiler alert, all entries receive a certificate from the competition, and the winners and highly commended entries are recognised in an awards ceremony, as James mentioned. We then basically like to use the stories themselves from people and from all the numbers, all of the submissions that we kind of recognise, to help the wider community basically understand what counts as valuable research. And we use the competition and numbers and entries as evidence in our other areas of work as well. Because, this is a campaign. We're always striving to make research culture better. And the competition entries and numbers kind of help us with that work. I go off on a bit of tangents, James, so let me know if that actually described how the competition works, or if I missed something fundamental.
No, it's really great. And I think what I'll do is kind of pick up some bits. So like you mentioned panels, for example. I mean, we have a bit like the real ref. And for those not watching this on YouTube, I did bunny ears at that point. But like with the real ref, we have sort of panels which are divided up to look at different types of output, right? And they're divided not by subject area, which you'd find in the ref. They're divided more by the kind of expertise the panelists have in relation to the type of non-traditionally submitted output, right? So we sort of spread our reviewers across those different parts, and we have different panel chairs, don't we, as well?
We do, yeah. So the panels work. We the last couple of times, we're obviously iterating all the time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're not looking to change anything huge in terms of how the panels work. But the last couple of times, yeah, we broke down those kind of 20 to 24 categories then into 5 different panels. And yeah, there's the panel chairs, and then kind of depending on which panel, how many applications were in each of them. Submissions, don't use the word applications. I'm trying to be consistent. Submissions that we receive in there would depend on how many panelists that we actually have. But yeah, somewhere between kind of 4 and 7 panelists that are then on each of those. I know we're obviously going to talk more about who is involved, but just to recognise more with panels there as well, we do obviously want to make sure we're splitting the judges into all these, our panelists and panel chairs into all these different Oh, losing my train of thought, Ben. You're going to have to cut it out. Hang on. So we split our panel chairs and our panelists into these 5 different panels, and then within the Hidden Ref committee, or maybe even community if it works this year, we then actually have panel advisors as well. And this is basically to act as people just to kind of keep everything going alongside the chairs, but then also to make sure that each of the panels are working in a consistent way as well, so that we aren't just saying that, the hidden role panel and what are they called? The practices panel are doing things completely differently. We want to make sure there's consistency and fairness across each of the panels.
Yeah, and you mentioned the hidden role panel, and I think it's just worth noting at this point, because you started when I asked you about how the competition works by speaking about the categories themselves and the kind of ones that to some extent come from the ref and the ones that come from the community. I mean, the hidden ref panel was one we didn't originally, within the hidden ref kind of like team who kind of work on this, we didn't think of that one. We originally were focused on output types, and then a bunch of people kept saying to us, because there is a call each year, as you sort of alluded to, for sort of new things we could add to the competition. And people came to us and said, I want to nominate a person. How do I nominate a person? So hidden role came about, and anyone who's heard Simon Hetrick talk about the hidden ref will know that this is a kind of a key part of the way he speaks about it, because it's a real moment when we realized the community wanted us to focus not just on sort of the types of work that is underrepresented, but how that work connects with the types of people whose work is underrepresented in research as well. So Hidden Ref panel is not only a separate panel, it's the biggest panel, and it's certainly the one that, in terms of the community orientation of how the panels work, was one of the ones really driven by that community to make that happen. And so it's a sort of a key part of our success, right?
Yeah. So a couple of times there you said hidden ref panel, but I know that you mean the hidden role
role panel
category. Roles, people. Yeah, just to iterate. I
hidden
think,
ref role,
Hidden ref role.
You end up with word salad after a while if you're not careful.
Yeah, true. It just kind of all jumbles in there. But no, I think that's an important thing to say. So I don't think I had realised that was then something that hadn't been considered for the first competition and then kind of recognised afterwards. Because for certainly 2 of the competitions, that has been the most popular category for people to put into. So this is absolutely why we need other people telling us what's important to them and what to do. Because don't just leave us to decide on your behalf of what is best. Because we want to recognise people, and we're going to have hidden role, and then people use that. And I have a feeling that might be one of the best submitted categories this year as well. But let's see.
Yeah, I suspect we'll get the most responses to that one as well. So, okay, so we talked a bit about like where the competition came from, the kind of like the overall kind of architecture of it, how the kind of competition part of it works, even though, as you've already articulated, maybe competition isn't quite the right way of framing it. But, it's stuck, so we stay with it. So who is involved? We mentioned panelists. So who are the kind of types of people that get involved in the hidden ref and making it happen? Sorry, the hidden ref competition and making it happen.
I know, I'm kind of like, I can see Simon's face when he first watches this thinking, why is she questioning what we're calling things? We're not changing anything. I'm not saying changing anything. It was just that like, actually how people will frame it. And what we've tried to do here is explain the reason that maybe competition is the right word to use. Who is involved in the competition, James? So there's loads of different ways to look at that. From an organisation perspective, you've got me as your competition chair. You're welcome. We have a working group of another 4 people, which currently are people who are actually in our committee. So we've got Michael, who is working on the communications. And actually, I'll take this opportunity to recognise one of our committee members' organisations, who's also an official Hidden Ref supporter, because when it comes to the communications, it's not my highest skill. Michael, I think, is better than me, but is when, I might need a little bit of assistance there. So we've actually been working with Emerald Publishing, who's been helping us put together some branding for the competition, and as well as a comms plan, and just kind of, they've got the expertise, and we want to do it justice. So they're helping us through that. So we're very thankful for their expertise. The other working group members that I mentioned, mostly so far, they've just been reviewing documentation. It's me going, I think it was maybe like 4 or 5 different pages of information. And I'm saying, go and have a look at this and tell me what needs changed from last time. So they're working on that currently. And then the whole working group are working together and continue to support myself and each other, running the thing, getting our panelists on board, that kind of thing. So who else is involved? We've obviously mentioned the volunteer panelists and the panel chairs. We're very thankful for their time, obviously. Mentioned the panel advisors that we have as well. And then, of course, the most important people involved in the competition. Can we guess who it might be?
The applicants?
Yes, we have the research community who make the submissions to our competition, and they're sharing that wide range of contribution and roles that make research excellent. So I don't know about you, James. I feel like the research community in general, I'm including myself in this, is very deadline driven. So we give people a deadline on when they should submit to the competition, which is great. And we all leave it till last minute. Okay, not everyone, but the majority leave it till last minute. And I'm begging you guys, it is so nerve-wracking for dates in the background if we see like a little trickle and another trickle and another trickle, and we're like, should we extend the deadline because we don't know if this is going to be worth it, if we're going to get enough entries. And then, of course, the last two, just boom, there they all are. And we've had all of these great things to assess. But man, is it stressful in the background, wondering whether you're going to have people submit or not. So yeah, if anyone has it in them to submit a slight bit early, go on and do it and like save my stress levels.
But I should say it will not change in any way the result of the competition. The panel chairs will be entirely independent, and the ones that come in early are not going to be recommended by Lyndsey for.
Oh no, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you who was in early and late. Like I am that person as well that I actually don't want. I don't know. Maybe everyone is a bit different. I'm not that person that's like, ooh, what have we had so far? I'm just interested in the numbers. It might even be like a thing. I don't know about you. I'm that person that like does a bit of work that needs done, and then you have so many other things that you move on and you move on. And I don't actually have the time to delve into them until it's closed, and then we go, okay, what are we dealing with, and then deal with that bit of work. So that's just an extra reassurance that nobody is checking who enters first and last. And like I say, I'm actually that person that, and it's not so much that I haven't got it ready. I'm just like, I will start a thing and then I'll do a little bit of work to it and a little bit of work to it. And then I basically want to make sure it's absolutely perfect before I put it in. So that's why I'll wait till the last minute to then submit.
And I think that's one of the things that's useful about the Hidden Ref competition in terms of how it helps us as a kind of a group who work on the Hidden Ref reflect on the wider ref process, right? Because as you know, people listen to this podcast will know the wider ref process is a massive administrative architecture. Ultimately, the ref do not have to worry about whether or not people are going to submit to the ref because they kind of have to, right? They're not sitting there the day before the deadline thinking, oh, why is no one submitted yet? And what we have done in replicating things like panel chairs and panelists in a kind of much smaller scale, of course, is to try and recreate some of the processes of the ref and try and give it the kind of the works and the people submitted to the Hidden Ref competition a level of scrutiny that they feel means that, you know, the outcomes of that competition, the kind of celebrations that we make of particular individuals or particular outputs are kind of, you know, the result of a robust process, right? But the robust process is inevitably very different from the one that the real ref, as it were, operates, and one that does involve different contingencies, such as simple things like, is anyone going to submit this year? And ultimately, people need to find the time, and this is the other side of it as well. Like the very fact that people give the time to nominate individuals, to nominate their own work or work of others as potentially being good enough to be awarded by the Hidden Ref says a lot about people's motivations to use their little bits of spare time to recognize others, recognize work that they feel would otherwise not get recognized. And that's like really humbling, I guess, alongside the kind of the behemoth of the wider ref process. Because as we found in things like, when we speak to competition winners or when we showcase competition winners at things like the Hidden Ref Festival, the impact on those winners can be really immense, right, Lyndsey?
Yeah. So no, just to say what you're saying there, obviously, yeah, one of the reasons we try and make it a simple process is because we realise that people have kind of limited time to get their work done. So we try and make it as simple as possible. But even then, it is a bit onerous on people. They've still got to actually put some work in to get it done. And it just goes to show that people think it's worth taking that time to submit to the competition. But yeah, so we do. I could get better. I'm just going to self-deprecate here at getting testimonials from people. So yeah, we love to hear about the impact that our work is having on people, because obviously we put a whole lot of work into running these things and all the other activities that we do, that we do want to hear how it is impacting people. So we ask this every so often, and now is about the time that I'll be getting in touch with our wonderful community again to ask them for kind of, I suppose, updates. I want to speak to people who have already submitted to the competition and told us about the impact that's had on their work. And I kind of want to touch base with them again to see whether there's had any kind of further impact, and then reach out to people that we haven't spoken to since that we want to know their impact. But yeah, we've heard from several people. So we had one person from the competition, I think it was in 2024, that told us that winning the Hidden Ref brought their work to the attention of people at their university, and it helped the work in being selected for a Ref Impact case study. So that's great, because presumably it wasn't going to be up there for that. So yeah, I'd like to know more about that, and if that then impacted anything going forward. Who else did we hear from? There was someone who actually believes that the recognition that winning the competition had was led to their promotion, which I think kind of everyone here goes, oh yeah, that's what we're talking. Give me the money, show me the money. It had an impact on that. Then, so I think, James, you already touched on the fact that we heard from some of our winners at last year's festival, which was a really great thing to do. And I think we had 4 different winners that we heard from. But the one I wanted to mention, so we had Laura Henderson, who is a research development manager. She was joint winner of the Hidden Role Award in 2024. And she told us how the award provided both personal and role recognition, because there is that thing, right? We all love feedback, and you assume that feedback is negative when you do something wrong. But that person has kind of got this great personal achievement and recognition for them. And they've told us that it highlighted critical, often unseen function of research support in winning funding and fellowships. And it also increased the institutional visibility and validation of that role, which is massively important for anyone who is working on similar things.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, go back to that episode, and you listen to this one after the festival, and you'll hear/see some of the examples of the ways in which our competition winners really valued being recognised by the competition winner, by the competition itself. So one other thing I wanted to ask you, Lyndsey, was about what's changing this year. And I guess one thing that's important here to note is that, if you create something like the Hidden Ref competition every year, it changes loads, then it can kind of damage the integrity of the individual kind of prizes, awards, gold stars, whatever we're going to call them. But what is changing this year? What is new to people who understand the competition for the last 2 cycles?
Yeah, I'd be worried if we had to change it massively year on year, because then it means that we're kind of missing the mark and not quite doing it right. But luckily, something must have been put in place that we were doing it right, because we've only ever had to kind of change a little bit. So yeah, with everything that we do at Hidden Ref, it's an evolving activity. We gather feedback and ideas from all of the areas of work that we do, and then I usually find, I don't know about you, James, that the kind of learnings that we learn in that activity kind of evolve how we might do different areas of our work. So we're always evolving kind of across activities. So the kind of things that we take into consideration when we make changes, we get feedback directly from people. So since the last competition, this is both from people who submitted to the competition as well as people that were involved in assessing it as well, because we want to learn from them. Ideas from the festival, and then we have lots of voices now during our new community calls. So we're always kind of taking basically any information that we can get. Let's try and change this. So what did I want to say? We've used metrics from previous competitions to campaign for change within the ref itself. But this year we have a more direct line through our ETI project, and we can actually use evidence from the competition to make recommendations to the Ref 2029 panels for their consideration. So that's something that we need to kind of hone down on and make sure that we do well. Later this month, I think we've obviously touched on it, but just to tell you that this will actually be happening, we'll be doing that crowdsourcing thing again when we're asking you for your suggestions for new categories, changing to existing categories. And then kind of while we're always taking on board all this new information from our other activities, we have actually, since 2024 till now, already have 2 new competition categories that have been suggested.
Ooh.
And I know. And then what you won't know, James, I live up in Edinburgh, guys. The voice is from where I'm from, employed by Southampton. And I was actually down in Southampton last week for a couple of meetings. One of my colleagues there was asking, like, oh, what's happening with the competition? Because I have a category to suggest. And then we spoke a bit about that category. So I know that there's one coming. And yeah, so we're looking forward to receiving these suggestions, then implementing them, and then basically celebrating all of the submissions that they hopefully bring. Another couple of things I'll mention about changing. So you might have seen that we are currently building expert groups. And another plug for that. So go over to a website, type in expert groups, work out what this thing is. And then if you feel like you want to be involved, it tells you all about that. But those expert groups are going to be working together on writing guidance on how to assess different NTO types. So we will then be using the guidance that they're writing to assess the outputs within our competition panels as well. I think that's all we are currently planning to change. It's always evolving, and hopefully I haven't just forgotten something huge that we're changing, because we're not changing anything huge, James, are we?
No, but I think that last point's really interesting, because it's like it's showing the ways in which building Hidden Ref can then feed into the competition. So, we're able to get a wider group of community members to come together and say, well, this type of output needs these kind of criteria applied to it. And that's something, I guess, that previous panel chairs have kind of said to us, that they really enjoyed the process, but weren't always sure how to assess different types of work. So having communities help us with that is great. And, you started off by talking about metrics, and we should say, Hidden Ref is committed to responsible metrics. But it does provide us with data that we can then responsibly use to feed into some of the work that Ref are doing and try and help improve that research process in the long term. Because Hidden Ref is here it's here because of the Ref, right? But it's here not only to focus on the Ref, but because the Ref is here and it's such a driver of research culture, it's definitely behoven to us to ensure that some of the work we do can feed into things that we think can reasonably be actioned by the Ref, even if they choose to go down the direction which is entirely, their choice, right? But yeah, no major changes this year, but some changes that kind of increase the robustness of the process. And as ever, more opportunities for the community to step in and tell us things they would like to see better recognised or recognised in different ways. Cool.
Yeah, just like I mentioned earlier, we need you guys to kind of tell us what we're doing right and wrong, and just make suggestions, because then it makes the work more worthwhile.
So before we finish this kind of info pack on the Hidden Ref competition, and at some point, I guess you need to tell us like when the competition's opening and all that key stuff, Lyndsey. Before we do that, like what is your favorite thing? Having worked on it last time, like what is your favorite thing about the competition? What is it you really love about it?
My favorite thing about the competition, can't say anything negative then, can I? So I generally love recognizing people for their work. We all like to be validated and celebrated, as I've mentioned. So I love being able to do that for others. But actually, a bit more personal kind of thing for me. My favorite thing, which I completely did not expect, was when reviewing. I didn't actually have to look over all of the submissions that came in, but I'm a bit nosy and I like to see what's actually happening in an attempt to understand it. And I hadn't realised I might recognise some of the submitted projects from real life. So, or certainly hadn't expected to recognise so many of them. So I'll give you examples. So one of the submissions was, I believe, infrastructure for supporting an initiative called Child Smile. James, you might not have heard of this because it is a it's not a UK-wide initiative. Child Smile, Scottish initiative for early learning centres in primary schools. So I have a primary school-aged child, so I've seen their work in action and heard his complaints about how disgusting the fluoride varnish is that they put on. But I hadn't expected to see something like that. And then another example, one which I've since actually told other people about, is a resource given to anyone on a CAMS waiting list, because there is actually an app for people who have children on the waiting list, which are years and years and years long, and it allows them to access resources kind of in the meantime. So that just shows kind of how, the wide range of different submissions that we have. But I certainly hadn't expected to read things about things that I've come across in real life. I actually think there were two other things I hadn't expected either, but those are the ones that stayed with me.
Are they really lovely examples? Because they kind of ground that research, right? They're not examples that are about, someone I know in my community who does my kind of research submitted something. They're examples that are about things you knew about already, that you then realize that they are doing work that you think is important.
Yeah.
They're doing research that they think is important, but they think their research is undervalued. And I think that's exactly what Hidden Ref is here for.
Yeah.
And the competition in particular.
So I'm obviously wondering what your favourite thing about our competition is, James.
So I was going to say the award ceremony, but I kind of started by talking about that. I think the thing that I really enjoyed last time the most was I wasn't actually involved in any of the panels, if you remember, because I was more involved in some other things, and then we were building up towards the Hidden Ref Festival. I think the thing that I enjoyed the most was when I started asking people questions about like how the panels had gone, and just the sense of just how in-depth the discussions were. That doesn't mean they were heated. It doesn't mean there were people like arguing with each other, about what should win and, throwing their weight around, but just how involved the panelists really got in the submissions, and the kind of, not just the time and effort, because we always appreciate the time and effort people give, but the kind of the integrity with which they really wanted to judge the competition. And that to me was just so special to kind of hear about that from those who were in the panels last year, because that just makes it all really worthwhile. If I came away feeling those panels were a little bit fluffy and people were just sort of going through the motions, that'd be very disappointing. But the fact that people on the panels really care definitely is one of my favorite things about the competition, because again, they're giving up their time for free, and giving up their time for free in ways in which, unlike say for the ref, their employer might recognize in some way with some workload contribution. Maybe some people have come up with arrangements with their employers, but as far as we're aware, they're giving up their spare time. Not the time of their employer to do this, and that is really valued.
That is true, and we're obviously relying on that. And obviously, I was the person that was kind of trying to build these panels and being the person that's emailing them all the last 2 years ago. But yeah, you do find everyone that comes on board to help us with these things, they're motivated and they're passionate about it, which I don't think we should take for granted.
So, Lyndsey, when's the competition opening? When can people expect to hear more about the 2026 Hidden Ref competition?
Ooh, this is when I actually then need to put concrete dates on it and hit my deadlines, isn't it? Which will happen, obviously. So the call for category suggestions and changes, which I have mentioned, will open on 23rd of March. That will be open for however many weeks it takes up until the 5th of May. Then we take a couple of weeks to kind of work on all of that, make sure we've written all the things that we need to write. We will then on the 26th of May announce the final categories and then the submission rules, so you know what it is you're actually doing. Get everything ready. 26th of May we'll open submissions. They'll be open until 13th of September. I know it seems like such a long time, but basically a whole bunch of things kind of stop over summer, don't they? Because we all hopefully have holidays booked. There'll be the submission deadline, middle of September, and then we close that, do all that lovely stuff, get our panels together, talking about it all, plan our awards ceremony, and then we will keep you guessing right up until the minute, which is what happened the last couple of times. There's no spoilers on who has won. You will let people know that they're shortlisted just so they can kind of compose themselves and maybe have a little speech ready. It's important. I need that. I need don't leave me sitting there sweating. And then the end of November is when we are planning the awards ceremony. So you can keep updated on all of our work and the competition and get in touch with us. So we are on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and our email is wtref@hidden-ref.org if you have any ideas for another podcast episode. So I suppose the last thing to say is thanks, James, very much for the interview. And we hope that
it did turn into that, didn't it? I don't think it was meant to be a full-on interview, but it kind of turned into that, didn't it? Oh, well.
Well, I was actually worried that it would turn too much into an interview and be a bit too dry, but I feel like we're funny enough that we've hopefully made it a bit engaging for people. Let's see. I'm not going to ask for your feedback on that, guys. Just digest it and move on. And all that's left to say is thank you all for listening to another episode of What the Ref, and we hope that you will join us next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.